Hey, we're live. Oh, I'm live. Just waiting for everyone else to join into the chat here where I started going on. But first and foremost, for anyone that is here. Oh, I'm live. Just waiting for. Oh, hey, what's going on, Howard G? I didn't even notice anyone was here so far yet. But yeah, hey, happy Canada Day to each and every one of you out there. Well, so far it's just Howard. So we'll give a couple minutes here for people to join into the stream. Yeah, I noticed too. That's another thing, actually, I wanted to point out. Apparently, August 1st, Hangouts on Air is going away August the 1st. For quick streaming, try. So I guess we will have an alternative option. So you just go to youtube.com and use the webcam app, I guess, instead of live streaming using Google Hangouts. So, you know, I've been very much fond of and comfortable with using Hangouts. So hopefully this new initiative by YouTube is basically the same idea. What's going on, Lanceopia? I'm here. Happy Canada's Day. Happy Canada Day to you too. Just going, like I say, just going to give a couple minutes here for a few more people to join in the chat. I'll just mention I've been having a great weekend so far, folks. Yeah, sure. YouTube keeps messing with my subscriber count, or well, I don't know if it's YouTube or just the people. But yeah, my subscriber count still doing that flip-flop up and down. But hey, it is what it is. One thing I've said many times in the past is no matter what happens on these social media platforms, it's not going to deter me from continuing to do what I do. I'm going to speak out openly and an advocate, a staunch advocate of individual liberty. I don't care if there's one person watching or millions of people watching. I don't care if YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or any of these social media execs try to suppress or deny my voice. At the end of the day, I'm just going to say what I got to say, no matter what you do. Like I say, you can try as you may, try as you might, but you're not going to shut me down. You're not going to silence me. I'm going to say what I got to say regardless. And because I have options and alternative platforms, be thankful I'm still here and using these dominant platforms as it is. Because I'm not reliant solely on these dominant platforms to say what I've got to say. I just recognize that this is where most people congregate to, and this is where some actual opposition resides. So yeah, those are the people I actually want to challenge, is those who are in opposition to those who are staunch advocates of individual liberty. If you're against it, yeah, that's just, like I say, this is the place where I want to be, so I can push back against your nonsense. Hey, what's going on, Derek Metzig? Hope you're having a great Canada Day so far. Like I say, I'll definitely try to keep this live stream to a minimal, probably an hour or 2 hours at most. Because, you know, I want to spend I'm sure like the rest of you people want to spend some time with friends and family. But, you know, it's an important day, right? When you're talking about Canada Day, what does it represent? What does it even mean? Well, it means that you're someone that stands for apparently what Canada is supposed to mean or represent, which is once again a North American initiative, somewhat aligned or in comparison or conjunction with the U.S. experience, which is to stand for rights, freedoms, and liberties. Right? We're not countries that are based solely on skin colors. Canada and the U.S. are predominantly countries that are based and built upon ideas. And those ideas are what resonates with me and what resonates with most Canadians, and why people really respect and adopt the philosophical underpinnings or the principles that have built these amazing societies or these countries that we currently reside in. And a lot of people take full advantage of them at their own detriment. You know, it's okay to accept and adopt the fact that people that have come before you put in a lot of hard work and effort, and actually not just hard work and effort, but fought and died to defend the freedoms that so many Canadians seem more than willing to take full advantage of and not place any genuine respect for it. But you know, I will every day. And it's not because I'm a super or an ultra nationalist in any way, but I definitely recognize that we're not all equal in every way, as in terms of politics or policy or philosophy, which is why the West is the best as far as I'm concerned. And I know that sounds a little bit collectivist, but no, it's the ideas once again. It's not about the people per se, because people, you know, there's some good people, there's some bad people, and there's a whole lot of people in between, or actually can be one or the other on any particular given day. But it's the ideas that matter most to me. And Canada is a country that is built on the idea of standing for rights, freedoms, and liberty. You know, strong and free, right? That's what Canada is supposed to represent. Strength and freedom. And that's the thing, without that strength of not just character and resolve, but courage as well, without those attributes, that freedom part doesn't actually exist, which is why I want Canadians to get on board and start adopting some of that mentality. Is it requires you to be a strong individual person with character and convictions if you want to live in a genuinely free society. You know, stop resting on the laurels of people in the past. You know, those people did their duty. They did their job. They did what was needed and necessary to at least create a free society. But the onus is on you and each and every one of us to continue to propagate that message and defend those rights, freedom, and liberties if you want them to carry through, not just in the present, but in the future. So what Canada means to me, I don't give a shit about the whole, you know, the history as far as, you know, fighting against the British or the monarchy or, you know, some of the conflicts we had with our southern neighbors. No, at the end of the day, like I say, the ideas, as far as standing in firm defense of individual rights, freedom, and liberty, that's what Canada Day means to me. Hey, what's going on, Steve Lacroix? Hey, everyone. Hey, actually, Steve. Yeah, Steve. Yeah. Right? Yeah, actually, Steve, you're the one that sent the message. Yeah. Did you want to join in? Most are passive and weak, both physically. Unfortunately, that is true. Unfortunately, there are some people that, well, once again, that's all subjective. It's all based on the individual, right? Some of us are strong and free-minded and free as far as, you know, what rests and resides in our mind. But yes, there are some Canadians that don't. Hey, what's going on, Theo? Hey, bud. Hey, Gato, what's going on? Nice to see you're in the chat today. Strong and free. How can anyone be free when they allocate others to make law for them? Exactly. That's so true. I don't advocate for that. Obviously, I'm sure Edgar realized that. Yeah, I know. Not at all, but most. Not all, but most. Yeah, you're right, Steve. But yeah, like I say, to me, freedom has to mean something. If we're going to stand in defense, and think about the kind of people that fought and died for the kind of liberties that a lot of Canadians take advantage of today. It sounds good as a soundbite, but it's, if you think about it intrinsically or delve down deep into what that means, people actually, you know, they sacrificed their life. And these people, I'm sure they had, you know, something to live for sure. I mean, some of them, you know, there's variances, but they probably had a lot to live for, but they were still willing to sacrifice even everything that they lived for in defense of the kind of rights, freedoms, and liberties that most Canadians get to enjoy. And that to me don't disrespect the people that took or assumed that task, that role, that responsibility. Don't disrespect them in such a manner by suggesting that those rights or freedoms are something that aren't necessarily needed today. Actually, today, they're needed even more than ever. Actually, today is a time where that kind of strength, that kind of resolve, that kind of rigidity in regards to standing for staunchly in defense of liberty, that's something that has to take place today for us to show, not just for ourselves in the here and now, but for future or successive generations. That's what has emboldened us even today. What emboldens me today to do the right thing is what someone did in the past. So I want to send that kind of message, and I want to lead by example, just like people in the past has done, so I can be that leader that some of my younger generations or successive generations will want to follow through and carry that torch of liberty at some point in time. So we got to be leaders, and we got to lead by example, and we have to show our willingness to stand in staunch defense of the liberties that so many people in the past fought and died to not just retain, to make sure it was something that was within our grasp, even what, 2-3 generations later. The fact that there's still residual effects that's front and center on the mind and the psychology of Canadian tells you that it was something that was staunchly not just in defense of people that cared about these things as much as we do, but it was something that was so important that they were willing to sacrifice, they'll give the greatest sacrifice that anyone could ever offer, which is their life, to defend them. Oh, shit. I guess a lot more people join the chat. Yeah, I know. I get on a little bit of a tangent there, right? Hey, it's not like this is the first time, folks. These people start to recognize. Bravo, Edgar. Right on. AJ, what's going on? AJ, Islam is peace. Praise on Allah on this day today. Right on, AJ. AJ is always good for a laugh, man. That's awesome. We live in a snowflake era. Well, hey, we are Canadian after all, so I'm snowflakes. But I get what you're saying. But you are absolutely right. Well, that's that multi-generational effect of not having to be, inundated or having to go through such in-depth resolve as far as sorting through your social economic issues. Like today, that's the beautiful thing about today is, we're not dealing with mass civil conflicts or violent revolutions. We're using our intellect, right? And the power of democracy. Although what we're seeing today is democracy isn't working out quite as well as it was purported to be, right? Majority or mob rule sounds good in theory, but not necessarily if you don't have a substantial or a majority of that population who's standing for the right thing. That's the thing. If you can get the majority of the population to stand in defense of authoritarianism or collectivism, well, those who are advocates of liberty or freedom, well, now you're in that scenario or that situation where now your rights, your freedoms are at the whims of those who are representative of the majority. That's why I've never been a huge fan of majority or mob rule or democracies. I believe more along the lines of having a very pronounced and very well understood constitution that lays out the basis, the ground rules for our social and economic engagement. Americans have actually done a better job than we have. But even in Canada, if you combine our constitution adopted from England from 1867 with the modern iteration as far as the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, if you add them all together and take in totality what that means as a representation of what it means to be a free Canadian, then actually we're very much closely aligned with the Americans. It's still a little bit lower than the Americans as far as accepting and adopting that kind of rebellious mentality towards authority, but still very much rigid and resolved to standing in full defense of our rights, freedoms, and liberties. Like I say, strong and free meant something, and it should mean something today. Happy candidate, Reverend Jim Jones. What's up, Reverend Jim Jones? Happy candidate to you as well. We live in clown world. Yeah, unfortunately. Right. I guess we're at least being entertained at the same time. Hey, what's going on? Equalist, not feminist. Morning CL from BC. Yeah, Ben, lead by example. For sure, Leo. Definitely always lead by example. That's what matters most. Aha, the rant man. Yeah, I can rant. I've been known to rant. Like I say, maybe someday I'm going to get a chance to have a big old conversation with Joe Rogan. I've never reached out to the man because I realize that I'm a pretty small fish in a big old ocean. So probably wouldn't even know who the hell I am, right? But maybe if the time ever happens and I get to sit down with someone like Joe Rogan for 3 hours, yeah, I'm not going to be Jordan Peterson. Still like the man. Nothing against him. But I'm not going to be Stephen Molyneux either. Joe ain't going to be able to just run rickshot over me because he'll be able to look across that table and realize that, yeah, I know what you're all about. And I got that same kind of pushback that you think you're going to push back against me. I'm going to do that to you, Joe. And I'm going to hold you that same kind of standard. And I'm going to use that devil's advocate mentality that you use to push back or challenge your guests. And, that's the thing. I definitely respect the fact that Jordan Peterson and Stephen Molyneux were more respectful, but both of these men come predominantly from academia, right? The intellectual type. Joe wouldn't be able to pull that shit with me because I don't come from the intellectual world. I come from that blue collar world that Joe apparently supposedly came from himself. Yeah, I've got street smarts, and I was born and raised in areas of this country that, yeah, you're not going to be able to play this stuff that you could with people that come from academia. You're not going to play that game with me, right? That's why I think where I'm in a much better or suitable position to push back against someone like Joe Rogan than someone like Jordan Peterson or Stephen Molyneux could ever hope to be. Like I say, I come from that same kind of background. Like I say, I'm blue collar, have been my entire life. So I have that immediate credibility that, like I say, people like Molyneux, and once again, mad respect to him, mad respect to Jordan Peterson too, but they don't have that same kind of background as I do, which is why, like I say, I'd be much more suited to be able to challenge some of the crap that that Joe Rogan uses to virtue signal to his leftist or authoritarian collectivist friends out there in California. I hope the day comes when I get that opportunity. Not going to hold my breath or anything, but it would be sweet. It's always nice to dream. That demonstrates debate. Oh, the Democratic debate you linked last night made me question my faith in humanity. The guy that says we need to change the gravity of the earth to survive. Holy shit. Well, yeah, there's all kinds of crazy stuff, Gato. I know. Well, you should be very much familiar with that as well, right? There's some crazy stuff that people go on about, and usually most of the time is like, I don't even want to delve into it. So how do you try to have these kind of conversations with people that don't even want to think critically about issues and just want to use dogma? Did you see Stefan Molyneux's latest video? Man, he's bang on there. Which one's that? Leo, just let me know down a little further down, because there's a couple I have missed. Well, this being a long weekend and everything, I've been trying to do a million things at once, and it's getting really difficult to keep everything because I'm working hard too, which is, yeah, my tan line sucks. Damn it. I don't know. I like working outside, I really do, but as you get older, it gets more and more difficult to put in these long, hard days work when you realize that you're not even being properly compensated. Like when I look at there as far as how much work I do and the things that I provide to people in society, like to me, it's like it's so destructive for incentives to know that some idiot that's sitting in an air-conditioned office basically doing nothing except twiddling a pencil or something in his hand. Although, do anyone use pencils anymore? No, I guess no. Fidgeting with his keyboard or watching YouTube videos is being compensated or rewarded to the tune of what, 4 or 5 times what I do. And I'm someone that actually provides real tangible shit for people. That stuff's really, like I say, that residual effect is having a profound effect on my psychology these days, where I don't even want to work as hard. And I'm one of those people that are just naturally ambitious. I don't know. It's like I've got 2 speeds, stop or fast forward. But even now, I'm trying to reduce my fast forward mode, because why am I working so hard in so many areas to help so many people when I realize that my compensation for my efforts are minuscule in comparison and contrast to people that, like I say, all they do is sit around, circle jerk, or spew a bunch of nonsense or rhetoric, but because they're part of a political tribe or those who are ideologically driven, they get special favor. Right? That's fucking bullshit. Or compensated way more than they're actually worth. Hey, don't even get me started on that. That shit drives me nuts. That shit really grinds my gears, as Peter would say. Actually, I don't know if any of you guys have ever, or girls, guys and girls both, I don't know if you've ever seen out there, but there's a dude that he does some videos. Actually, I haven't watched it in a while, so I'll have to get back to watching some of his newer videos. But it's something along the lines of the real Peter Griffin. Anyways, it's a guy that grind my gears. And it's just a regular dude that's making videos. But goddamn, not only does he kind of look like Peter, he does a great job representing that. It's hilarious. Sorry, that's just me thinking out loud, folks. Same Derek. Oh, Derek, yeah. Justin Trudeau has turned Canada into a socialist state like Yugoslavia. And Alberta is a lot like Croatia in that era. Yeah, well, that's true. Unfortunately, yeah, the authoritarian collectivists are definitely turning not just Canada, but a lot of the Western world into these future dystopian shitholes. And it's all based on the premise that, once again, all you have to do is think critically about them. They're like a wet piece of paper if you've done so. You could poke your finger through it really quickly, but apparently most Canadians aren't willing to even, challenge that political narrative or that messaging that's being espoused by these authoritarian collectivists, which, like I say, it tells me that people aren't thinking at all about these issues. It means that they're just repeating and regurgitating the political talking points because they think that's the best thing to do or it's the right thing to do. Well, that's what we're here to do, right? Is to push back against that nonsense. The truth about Antifa, that's such a crock of shit. Anti-fascist, which just take the anti off of that, and actually you got a perfect description for those who are representation of Antifa, is they're the fascists. Let's just be honest here, folks. They're the authoritarian collectivists that people in the past used to warn us about. I mean, like I said, and I've said this many times in the past too, take a look at Hitler, right? Those who think that guy was a right-winger, seriously, just go watch some old video footage of the guy. Just learn through his history. Learn what the Nazi party represented. Well, Nazism was short for National Socialism. The guy was a staunch proponent of socialism. And I mean, like I say, and I've said this in the past too, and once again, I don't try to just make fun of people based on their physical characteristics, but I will when you're talking about people that are supposed to be authoritarians. Some dude with a shoulder that, or shoulders that are this narrow in scope, like Hitler's shoulders were probably about as wide as my microphone, right? But he's some strong man, right? He's the strong man right winger. Nah, I don't fucking think so. Heck no. Matter of fact, you shave that little bit of that small slice of mustache that Hitler had off, put a wig on the man. Yeah, no, he's a modern SJW. What? Two-spirited? I don't know what you would call him today, right? I don't want to misgender. I don't want to mispronoun the guy or the girl or the it or the zer or the z. But yeah, Hitler was no strong man. And to pretend or suggest otherwise, once again, these are people that come from a weird place. I don't know what's up with those people. But hey, don't listen to what they got to say because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Yeah, collectivism, authoritarian collectivism, that's very much left. Not right, but very much left in terms of politics. Sorry, I get on a little bit of a kick here, folks. Me too, buddy. Subscribe star. Gato. Bennett. What you need to do is to get a subscribe star. Actually, I should do that. Tell you the truth, Gato. Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that, Gato, because Cat in Canada, I don't know if I remembered to mention this in my last live stream, but thanks to Cat in Canada for helping me with my tie fund, because in addition to rainy steps between the both of you, I've got some new ties. Now, today, obviously, I'm not wearing a tie. I got my Scottish, no, but it's obviously the Canadian flag, but in a checkered pattern. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't have any tie in today, but the next time I'm wearing a tie, I'll remember to mention that it's thanks to people such as Rainy Steps and Cat in Canada for offering their donations to help me in my tie fund, because and hey, I've even got a couple new white shirts now, so I can switch up the whole tie shirt combination and recycle some of those ties I already had, but now with a whole new color combination. So thanks to everyone out there that have helped me in that regard. Try to keep things fresh in some way, right? And styling and profiling. Okay, so what we got here? He's still around. He's hilarious. Gordon Stewart. That would shut down a lot of unions. Well, hey, unions, unfortunately, I get the premise, and there's some residual aspects of unions that I think are beneficial to people, do have a collective voice. Well, basically, people get together to push back against people who are trying to be authoritarian towards them. But once again, the way it's done now is you're just offloading that responsibility to some third-party intermediary, right? Your union boss. So you're still having a kind of a top-down authoritarianism. It just depends on where it's coming from and who gives you the better sales pitch, right? Because they're all, whether it's your employee that you're railing against or having grievances with, or your union bosses that are still taking a big chunk of that income, your productive wealth, to sustain their own livelihoods, once again, they're all digging into your pockets. The difference is you should be pushing back against your union leaders as much as you are against your employers in terms of their kind of authoritarian or collective measures that seek to deny or suppress you as the individual. Because when you're out there on the work floor or in the workspace, you have to recognize that you're not all working equally and you're not all competent or capable in every way. That's why I believe in rewarding and respecting people based on their own individual characteristics rather than their group or collective identity. Yes, it's hard. Someday I am up to 2 a.m. finishing videos. Hey, I hear you. Yeah, anyone that does videos, you know full well, especially if you don't have someone to offload all the responsibilities to, which I don't, and obviously Leo doesn't, is it's a lot of work because you're not just recording the videos, but then you have to go into render and edit and upload, make thumbnails. I mean, there's a buttload of work. And I've said in the past, some of my videos might take from beginning to end by the time they're uploaded to YouTube. It might be 4, 5, 6, up to 7 hours in totality, especially because if I had to investigate or do studies or research based on the topics that I'm dealing with. Like I say, a lot of work goes into producing even just a 5 or 10 minute video. So I understand what you're saying there, Leo, which is why, once again, I think we should all be rewarded, compensated for all the hard work and effort that we put in there. The Antifa bozos waving communist flags here have clearly never lived in one. Exactly. That's the thing with these people. Yeah. Oh, you love your communism? Like I say, I would love to be able to just say, here you go. You want to see how that is and experience it in real life? Head on down to Venezuela or let's put you in that time machine and send you off to the Soviet republics, prior to the 1990s. Let's see how you like that one. Or under the communist regime. Well, even in the past, or hey, even today, right? Go ahead and see how much you like your forced subjugation or your authoritarian collectivism. Let me see what your report is after you've lived under it for a while. I was wondering, where can I migrate to, and will the government pay for my resettlement? Probably not, eh? Hey, Steve, give a call to, shoot, I'm having a bit of a brain fart here. Co-founder of PayPal. Why am I having a hard time here? Oh, Peter Thiel. Although I report on that too. Even people that were supposed to be, what were they called? Not homesteaders, but they were out on the water. I'm sorry, folks. I don't remember exactly. I did videos in the past covering it. But people like Peter Thiel, billionaires that are libertarians in Silicon Valley, which most of them used to be libertarians. As far as these upstarts in Silicon Valley were predominantly libertarians. Now, today, you're seeing how that is being shifted and affected towards more authoritarian collectivists. But Peter Thiel, like I said, which is a Silicon Valley libertarian, has been more than willing to put not just his support, but his money to back up people who are, it was seasteaders. There were people out there in the middle of the waters down there, I think it was around the Philippines or somewhere, where Peter Thiel put up the capital, the initial investment, to at least try to establish some kind of governance-free zone, or at least self-governing zone, that wasn't stuck or beholden to authoritarian collectivism, which is dominant as far as most of the land-based governments today. So, if you reach out there, if you look to people that are willing to invest, and if you have a great idea, some of them out there might be willing and capable and able to help you out financially. So try it out. You might have been joking, but I'm not. You can seriously try that out. And if I come up with an initiative on my own, I'll keep Peter Thiel as someone that I will reach out to see if I can't make that kind of a practice and make that a real world example where, hey, look, see, here's that example. You know how people have been saying for so long, well, how would a libertarian society flourish? Well, I'd love to be able to say, well, here's an example and see how well it works. Because at the end of the day, that's the best basis. That's the best premise to start from as far as espousing and getting people on board with supporting libertarian values and principles, showing that, look, there's a real world example and how that's working in the 21st century. And we'll get to that point, I think, fairly shortly. It's not going to take that long, folks. I think we're going to get there. We're going to go through a lot of crap before that actually happens. Someday I'm up. Oh, yeah. The Antifa bozos wave. Yeah, okay, Steve. By the way, if anyone wants to come into the live stream, Steve or anyone, just let me know in the chat, and I'll send a link to you. Yeah, Steve, I believe I have you. So on Facebook, anyone, like I say, I'll send a link to you if you want to get involved in the chat here. The VP president of CUPE in Hamilton took part of the Pride Bowl in each part. It's on video. Well, that's the thing. A lot of these people that are representative of these authoritarian collectivist initiatives, they're just saying that, hey, they're virtue signaling their alignment with other authoritarian collectivists. That's what authoritarian collectivists do. They virtue signal that, hey, even though you might do things differently, at least one thing we have in common, or we share in common, is the fact that we're authoritarian collectivists. They seem to be more than willing and more adept at showing solidarity with each other because they lack actual ideas or principles. So to them, at the end of the day, it's all about creating numbers, right? Generating large, substantial numbers. It's never about ideas. It's all about majority or mob rule with those types anyways. It's some water homesteaders on the coast of England. Yeah, I was joking. Big Macs are for the rich. We are marginalized for our normalcy, no doubt. Norman Kuhn. Hey, Bennett, happy candidate. What do you think about Soros and Koch joining forces to save the world? Well, these are just billionaires. Like I say, whether it's the Koch brothers or George Soros himself, as you know, I usually don't delve into what particular rich or connected elitist billionaires do. I mean, they're all going to have their own particular personal political biases or preferences. But once again, they're still just individuals at the end of the day. Sure, they have a lot of power, they have a lot of money, and by natural extensions of that power and money, a lot of influence, but they still lack or pale in comparison to what the masses can offer as a pushback towards them. So to me, at the end of the day, I don't really care about what a few central planning or elitists suggest or say. Now, I wouldn't say that the Kochs and the Soros are exactly equal in the representation or the promotion of their particular values or principles. I think George Soros seems to be more predominantly aligned with globalism or forced collectivism, whereas the Koch seem to be more aligned with classical, liberal, or libertarian values and the staunch advocacy of individual rights, freedoms, and liberties. Now, like I say, until I've seen someone that's proven me otherwise as far as my assumptions, that's the basis as far as who I or how I perceive people such as David or Charles Koch in comparison or contrast to someone like George Soros. I hope I helped answer your question there. Oh no, you're flying a Canadian flag and you're white Canadian. I'm triggered now. Get triggered as much as you want. It is what it is, right? I am Canadian. To deny that is to suggest that I don't recognize reality. And yeah, I acknowledge and I recognize reality. And on days like today, I don't want to hang my head in shame of the fact that I'm Canadian. I want to, raise my chin and show to my Canadian people that I'm proud of it. And basically for one reason only. And that is the simple fact that Canadians are part and parcel of that Western experiment that created the most free and prosperous societies on the globe in the last couple hundred years. That is what I'm staunchly defending. That's what I'm proud of. Not accomplishments based on particular collective ideologies, but based on ideas that were of such paramount importance that it propagated and made societies in the West, not just socially, but economically prosperous to the point where now you have people that are resting, residing on those laurels or the capacity that created such a free society to now sit back, bitch, and complain about the fact that, we're not perfect. And I'll admit, and I'll acknowledge, and I'll agree with those people that, yes, Canadians are not perfect. Americans aren't perfect. The people of the UK are not perfect. A lot of mistakes have been made. And a lot of times those rights and freedoms were not respected by particular individuals. But once again, the overarching idea of individual liberty is still very much something is at the heart and core of what it is to be Canadian. And that's what I'm proud of, is that staunch defense of individual rights, freedoms, and liberty, and being strong and free. I know I no longer can be convinced otherwise. CUPE is funding Antifa here in Canada. I don't doubt that for a minute. So true, Gordon. Help, I need a safe space now. Run as fast as you can. Welcome to Alberta, Derek. Hey, what's going on, Plant Boy? I'm actually upset because there's no Canada Day parade here today. Well, yeah, that's pretty messed up, right? Hey, Bennett, there are 3 different constitutional challenges to the new breathalyzer without cause laws. Do you think with our current activist judges, they will be successful in their challenge? That's the problem. Well said, actually, Equalist Not Feminist, is, yeah, you can put all these challenges, right, in the courts towards these overarching authoritarian measures or these collective or preemptive punishments. Once again, as Equalist Not Feminist is suggesting, because you have so many activist judges, how's that going to play out? How's that going to unfold? I don't know, because once again, it's based and resides on the subjective opinions of these activist judges. So they may choose to acknowledge and respect Canadians' fundamental rights and freedoms. But hey, if they're activists and they've been lobbied or they've had lots of propaganda put forward and presented them by people or organizations such as Bad Canada, they might use emotional bias or political bias as a means or an end to their decision, rather than a staunch defense of our individual rights, freedoms, and liberties. So once again, it's always subjective when you're talking about placing in the hands of fallible human beings. And I would never pretend or suggest that I know what's going on in the minds of these people. It could come out one side or the other. At the end of the day, though, that's the importance of having people who are willing to staunchly defend our rights, freedoms, and liberties, is even though these political activists or these judges might make wrong decisions, the onus is on us to place people in positions of authority that will remove or restrict these people in their capacity or the ability to deny our inherent individual rights, freedoms, and liberties. So if a judge makes the wrong decision, then the onus is on us to make sure we've created a platform or a scenario where the legislators or those who appoint these judges can remove them from that board and replace them with someone who is going to respect our inherent rights and freedoms. Gato, if you look at the Koch brothers working with Soros, it seems very similar to the libertarians working with the conservatives. Sometimes 2 ideologies can agree on a single issue. Well, that can definitely happen. And like I say, I'm not too familiar. I haven't been watching too much because I usually don't delve into particular political actors or economic actors because I'm an ideas kind of guy. And a lot of people, like I say, I don't know what's going on in their head. So I can't pretend to suggest that I have any in-depth knowledge in what's going on in the minds of the Koch brothers or even George Soros himself, which is why, like I say, at the end of the day, I'm a results and an ideas kind of guy. If the ideas make sense to me and the results are showing that those ideas are the best platform or the premise to make those ideas flourish or those results happen, then that's where I'm on board with. As far as, like I say, individual actors or these corporatists, I don't know. Some of them, sometimes, maybe on a particular day, they're on my side. Maybe on another day, based on another particular superficial aspect of the economy, they might be completely in contrast to my stance. I don't know. Like I say, to me, I'm not going to worry about particular individuals or actors in the economy. I'm going to care about making sure the economy is conducive with forcing these individuals or these actors to align with respecting all of our individual rights, freedoms, and liberties. So the Koch brothers should never have any capacity to force or thrust anything upon me, because under a free market environment, I can choose to support them and I can choose not to. That's what matters most at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned. The people who want to do the wrong thing, well, they can do the wrong thing, but I'm not going to support them. And hopefully most Canadians or most Americans or most people that have a decent moral compass or ethical stance won't support people that are doing the wrong things. That, at the end of the day, and once again, that's still hopeful and wishful thinking. But I'd rather rely on wishful and hopeful thinking than become an authoritarian and say that you have to do this or you have to do that. Because at the end of the day, the minute I've turned to authoritarianism as a means to an end, well, now I'm no better than the people that I'm insulting or deriding or pushing back against. I love Alberta. Derry Metzing. Right on. Kenny, not so much. Are you talking about? Oh, here we go. Steve, thanks to Black guy Jesse Lee Peterson. It's also Happy White History Month. Not sure about that one, Steve. I'm sure that's an inside joke. Point fire. Fight against ISIS, ISIL, and face imprisonment upon return to Canada. Fight for ISIL, and get rewarded. Google Aiden James, soldier. Yeah, I know some crazy shit, right? That is nuts. This country is so screwed. It is, but hey, this country is filled and comprised of 36 or 37 million individuals. So it's not over. It's not the end all be all. We can change it if we choose to do so, or at least if enough of us choose to do so. Ottawa and Toronto has a parade. Maybe here in Grand Prairie. Yep, Legend TV. We should make this video go viral. Well, that would be cool. I would definitely appreciate of that. Put the liberal socialists in the mountains with each other and let them turn into mountain herds. Yeah, that'd be a wild one. Hey, what's going on, Kat? Such is the judge who supported minor over parents. Agreed. Yeah, that was pretty messed up, wasn't it? Oh, I seen Norman Kuhn had a message retracted. Oh, apparently they did it themselves. Someone else didn't delete it. Parents. Has anyone heard that the Ontario Superior Court said the carbon tax there is constitutional? Yeah, I did. Yeah. But once again, you're talking about activist judges, Derek. So, these people can make all the decisions they want. But once again, it's all subjective. It's all anecdotal based on their own internal biases. That's the problem with people. You like to believe that judges are what? Infallible, perfect human beings that are going to make the right decisions on every case that's ever presented them. That's utopian thinking. Now, these people are making the wrong decisions and they're basing them. Well, I mean, to me, subjectively, I would say it's a wrong decision. But once again, it's based on their own personal subjective experience or their ideological bent. So once again, this is the area where how do you create an area in law when you have people that can use their own internal biases or preferences as far as what they deem whether the law is legit or not? This is the problem. And it's something that probably keeps a lot of Canadians sleepless and up at night thinking about is that, yeah, we're still always and forever, as long as we're going to place the emphasis on allowing fallible human beings to rule over us, well, you're always and forever going to be susceptible to the fact that these people are going to use their own internal biases as their ultimate means to an end. And you're not going to get out from underneath that. All you're really doing is team A, team B. They're using too much of their authoritarianism towards my side or my team or my collective. So let's just do the same thing towards them. Once again, that's why I'm not a fan of democracy or majority or mob rule, is because I recognize every human being, including myself, is fallible, which is why I've never placed myself in a position to be some arbitrary authority over millions of people, nor would I ever want to place myself in that situation. Why? Because even myself, I don't trust even myself enough to have that kind of power or that kind of capacity. So if I don't trust myself enough to have that kind of power or capacity, why in the heck would I ever want to place that in the hands of anyone else? Right? It's the problem, folks. It's a lot to think about, but it's worthwhile thinking about. Judge knows we the people have to just caught. Sorry, I went down a little too far. The judge knows we the people have no just cause in the courts against the Constitution. It was built for the government body itself, not we the people. The Hague would be the only real challenge. Yeah, to a certain degree, maybe. Steve Lacroix, I like Max. Maxime Bernier, I see you're talking about Steve. Actually, you know what? I just, okay, sneak peek, I guess. Teaser. I just rendered a video today. I did it. I rendered it. It's edited, and I just got to wait to upload it in regard to the policy position of the PBC under the leadership of Maxime Bernier. And once again, mad respect and very proud of the fact that Maxime took that immediate position. And I think I don't want to give myself complete credit here, folks, but I was one of those staunch supporters of freedom of speech. And I made that video pushing back against the PBC and saying, no, we got to stand for some shit here, right? Like we really got to define and differentiate what the PBC is as far as its advocacy for individual rights, freedoms, liberties, and personal responsibility. And you know what? Freedom of speech was very important. And I made sure when I made that video, and I had people that were fellow supporters and members of the PBC that were really mad about the fact that I created such controversy so publicly and so vocally. But you know what? I'm very appreciative of the fact that I've done so, because look at what's happened as a consequence, as a result of me doing what I did. Now, Maxime Bernier and the PBC, now you can go to their policy position and you'll see that's right there. And actually, I got it right up here on the screen. So if you go to People's Party of Canada website right now, you'll see under the banner of freedom of expression, protecting Canadians from censorship and discrimination. And then it goes down and it talks about issue. And this is the whole area and aspect in regards to now the People's Party of Canada has an entire segment of their platform that is in full defense of Canada's rights to free speech, freedom of expression, and freedom of association. And, you know, like they're even, I was like, I couldn't believe it, because when I read through the entire policy, I was like, I'm getting a little excited, but I don't want to get too overly ambitious, because I'm sure there might be somewhere in there where they're leaving out some of the most important points of freedom of speech. But you know what? No, Maxime and the PBC have included even the most important parts of freedom of speech. And it goes right down to the bottom part under a People's Party government will, and listen to this, folks, restrict the definition of hate speech in the criminal code to expression which explicitly advocates the use of force against identifiable groups or persons based on protected criteria such as religion, race, ethnicity, sex, or sexual orientation. So basically, this is what I was advocating too, is let's strike the very pretense of hate speech almost entirely out of the legal or legislative definitions in Canada and stick to what this is suggesting. Yes, if you're advocating for using preemptive violence or force towards people, whether they're individuals or group, that I would say should be deemed illegal and immoral and definitely unethical. But anything outside of that, as long as you're not advocating for using force or violence towards people, then yes, there should be no such thing as hate speech laws in this country. And Maxime and the PBC has made that as part and parcel of the party platform. Think about how important that is for Canadians. That is something that has never been anything that has even existed through all of our Canadian history, all the way back from 1867 till today in 2019. This will be the first time under a party platform in Canada where you have this as a policy position. Think about how proud I am to see that that's a reality under the PPC party platform. I'm very proud to know that Maxime stood firm on his conviction and was willing to accept the fact that I was pushing back against the fact that we need a staunch definition of what it is to have freedom of speech in this country. But you know what? Rather than ignore what I had to say, he accepted and adopted that and placed that as part of the policy position of the PPC, which, once again, real proud to see that there's someone in this country who's a representation or a representative and a leader of a political party in this country that's willing to stand in full defense of Canadians' right to freedom, expression, and association in this country. How important is that? Like I say, very proud of Maxime for doing that. And I hope you are as well, folks, because this is something, like I say, no other party in all of Canadian history has been willing to do so. So this is leading by example in the 21st century. Yeah, for sure. Equalist, definitely an activist judge. Go Max Go, PPC 2019, hashtag PPC 2019, bitches. No, but seriously though, really like the stuff, even just read on that. Like I tell you, it gets me a little bit more inspired just knowing that, dang, we're going to do this. We're going to do this, Canada. Well, we are, but hey, we got to get more and more Canadians on board and adopting these kind of mentalities, this kind of psychology in their mindset. Like I say, get them more ambitious and on board with standing. That's the thing with you leftists. Stop dealing with what's inspiring you on as far as those authoritarians or your thought leaders on the left. They're not doing shit for you. I mean, Trudeau has shown that he's completely inept and not even a representative of the things that he supposedly espoused as far as feminism or defending women's rights, freedoms, or even the LGBT or minority rights. No, libertarians or people such as Mad Max are the ones that are truly standing in full defense of your rights, freedoms, and liberties. Justin Trudeau, he's just virtue signaling under a collectivist mindset and a collectivist banner, which, once again, denies you as the individual. And at the end of the day, you know yourself as a Canadian, you're an individual. So it should resonate with you the importance of respecting who you are and what you represent as an individual. Like I said, all we really care about at the end of the day is sticking to some very finite rules and principles as far as our social and economic engagement. And freedom should be the central core and focus of those engagements and interactions. Legend TV is a founding member of the PPC. Hey, so am I, and I'm a real proud founding member as well. I saw that. That is what I view as an activist judge. Me too, guys, and part of the EDA. Well, Playboy, yes, I know you're working hard all the time, and good for you. Thanks for doing that. I am mad as hell, and I can't take it anymore. I'm mad as hell, and I can't take it anymore. I love that expression. Yeah, that's good stuff. Scheer is a liberal light. Yeah. I don't know if he's really light. He's just liberal almost. Right? Although that's the thing. We can't even use these terminology or these terms under the proper banner anymore because they're not, neither of them are liberal other than their liberal dose of authoritarianism. That's about it, right? Equal is not. Did you agree with it? No, I think the leader. Okay. There are more good than bad people in this country. We need to remember that. I believe so. Well, I mean, I believe that people can be good and bad based on, the particular day or the particular circumstance of the situation or the topic, right? That's the thing. I have no belief that everyone's good on every day or everyone's bad on it. It's all based on subjective stances. That's why it's so important to have very finite rules and principles as far as our social or economic engagements or interactions, which is, I don't really care. You can be the most difficult or divisive or evil person on the planet. The only thing that I require of you is when you're dealing with me, when we're dealing with each other in the public sphere, is you got to put all that bullshit aside and do the right thing. In your own personal life, if you want to sit around causing harm for yourself, well, I would probably recommend and suggest that that's a bad idea. But once again, if you're not harming anyone else other than yourself, I'd say, well, the onus is on you to work through your own internal problems or issues. But like I say, as long as you're dealing with the rest of society, the rest of the world, in a voluntary manner where you respect their autonomy, their sovereignty, and their freedoms, then at the end of the day, that's what matters most to me. Scheer is a narc, not a real conservative. I would agree with that one too. ACAT. Max is coming to Alberta in July. Well, that should be sweet. Candace saying, hey, thinker, critical thinker. Hey, Leo. Oh, that's another thing, Leo. Let me just mention, is Steve, I just want to double check here because Steve Lacroix, I'd have to go through, and I don't want to make you all wait while I go through searching this stuff, but I know you were mentioning, Leo, that me and you, and I believe it was Steve. I'm not sure if it's this particular Steve in the chat, but hey, if you want to sit down and have a three-way conversation or a live stream together someday, just let me know. I'm more than willing and on board to do so. I've been kind of clearing up my schedule for a while now and trying to get to the point where I can start doing things in a different, more conducive manner going forward, because I was getting a little bit overwhelmed there for a while and trying to have too many interviews and too many meetings. And it was getting to the point where it was just, I'll admit, it was too overwhelming, especially now that I have to go, like I'm back working basically full time in the construction field. So it's a lot for me to take on or tackle right now. But like I say, if there's one thing I am definitely more than willing to do so is interact, engage with those of you who are proponents and advocates of freedom and liberty yourself, as far as collaborating in these live streams or these Google Hangouts. So if you got anything that you want to plan, just send a message to me and like we could set something up. Oh, by the way, yeah. Even my drink today, I am Canadian. No, I like to drink tomato juice even on days that it's not Canada Day or Canada Day weekend, to tell you the truth. I like tomato juice, folks. It's good stuff. Although as these hotter days, I have to admit, as the days get hotter, I would actually prefer and enjoy sit down and have a beer. To be honest with you, I'd rather have a Canadian or a Budweiser. I used to drink Canadian when I was younger, but actually now that I've drank it recently, it's like, it doesn't taste nearly as good as I used to remember. But I'd love to sit down and have a beer. But once again, I think I would get some negative feedback if I were to sit here and have an open can of beer while I'm doing my live stream. Go, Max, go. Red Deer, Fort Mac. What's going on, Will Krisky? Shit, I went down too far again. Whoa, YouTube. Why do you make me have to go back so far to scroll through? Max is in my hometown. Soon see if I can get some time with him. Right on. Gordon Stewart, the third, forcing robbery or forcing puberty blockers on a child is child abuse. I agree. Peterson, or preteens haven't fully developed abstract thought or critical thinking skills yet. I agree 100%, Gordon Stewart. I would 100% agree with you. And I think what they're doing is definitely child abuse. It's a shame. Leave the kids alone. Can you just leave fucking... Yeah, don't even get me started on that stuff. Leave kids the hell alone, right? Until they become adults. Can you just leave kids alone? It's a shame what people do to children these days. Or not just these days. It's happened many times in the past too. But yeah, leave kids alone. Give them the chance to grow up, for crying out loud. Say the N-word. Why would I say the N-word? Nice? Is that what you mean? Nice. It's insane, Gordon. The patients are running the asylum. That was so true, Edgar. Edgar Forrester. So true. The inmates are running the asylum. Insane in the membrane. Insane in the brain. The N-word to Canadians. Numbnuts as usual. Well learned. Good one, Kat. Yeah, numbnuts. So true. Child experimentation by loony doctors. Well, it is some crazy stuff. My goodness. Like, that's a thing. As a libertarian, I'm all about, giving people their social freedoms and liberties. I'm all for it. But like, why do you have to run with that to such a ridiculous degree and just try to create such a atmosphere of just, I don't know, sexual deviancy, as far as I'm concerned? Once again, that is my own personal subjective opinion, folks. Like I said, I don't pretend to be an authority as far as sexuality and all that stuff. But damn, it seems that deviancy seems to rule the day, right? I don't know. Like I say, I don't like to accuse or point my fingers at people that, like I said, I don't know what's going on in their mind, with what's happening with their thought process. But I do see that there is a staunch advocation of sexual deviancy rather than a little bit of pushback, which is seemingly denied or overridden these days by people that say, no, maybe it's good to have a heterosexual family or societal structure that respects like the male-female societal construct, and as far as how that relates to having children. Like, why can't we have, if we're supposed to have diversity, well, shouldn't we accept that kind of diversity where you actually have people that are staunch defenders of the traditional family values, shouldn't they be respected as well? Once again, these leftists, these authoritarian collectivists that say they're staunch advocates of diversity, well, the minute you say, well, yeah, but I'm a big fan of traditional family values and those kind of principles, but yet they'll say, oh, you're a terrible person. Well, wait a minute, that's not diversity, right? You're saying that you're a staunch advocate of diversity, but the minute I offer you something that's in comparison or completely contrasting, which is diverse to what you stand for, you're saying, oh, that's a bad thing. Well, that's not an advocate of diversity. Once again, these people are using the kind of rhetoric that suggests that they're accepting and open to diversity. But at the end of the day, no, the only thing they care about is the diversity of what? Your skin color or your sexual or gender identity, I guess, is about the only thing that they say that they would accept as far as diversity. But as far as diversity of ideas, no, they're not defenders of diversity in any way or by any stretch of the imagination. Sorry, I got to trim my nose hair soon, folks. As long as you can't see them hanging at the bottom, right? The word, okay, when I went to visit family last year in Ontario, I seen on a Canadian the receipt another 5% tax, top of 13% tax. Now they want to tax all sugar drinks. Yeah, Derek, they're crazy as far as taxing. Well, everything is all, and it's always done under the banner of they're just trying to do the right thing, right? It's all you wish that every time you went to rob someone, you could just use the example of, yeah, sure, I'm here to take your money, but hey, I'm going to give it to someone that's really in desperate need. So just give me your money now, okay? How many times have that would work out, right? Probably not so well. But once again, these people play the game of politics where up is down, black is white, and in is out, right? So we're functioning in an environment where nothing makes sense anymore. If you don't mind me asking what area. Oh, okay, sorry. No one protested. Hey, what's going on, Point Fire? Thank you for some Canadian values on Canada Day. Open dialogue. May God continue to bless you, man. Hey, thank you very much, Point Fire. I really appreciate that. And may God bless you as well. And I hope you have a great Canada Day. That's another thing, too, folks. I'll try not to keep this video too long, this stream too long, because it really is important for us to go out and spend time with our friends and family on this day, right? Because, I mean, it's an extra holiday. Who cares about some of the underlying fundamentals or principles as far as, advocate of statism or not? At the end of the day, it's showing solidarity with ideas or the example of what it used to mean or what it should mean to be a Canadian, which is, once again, those who promote genuine freedom who are strong and free. And at the end of the day, freedom is what matters most. So you do your thing, get out there and promote that in any way that you see fit. Don't let some authoritarian thought leader or people in a political position or so-called power or authority to tell you how you should do that. You do it under your own way. You do it under your own mentality and make sure that it's conducive with respect and other people's freedoms. Like I say, leading by example is how we actually create and maintain the semblance of freedom in this country. Not going along to get along, but being staunch advocates and defenders of that liberty that these people suggest that they care about. Well, if they care about the freedoms, then at the end of the day, they have to care about promoting what you have to say or what I have to say. And that's what I'm here to do is all you people that are in this chat today, I might not agree with you on every area or every subject or every topic or every issue that ever is raised. But I really don't care if that's the case. All I really care about at the end of the day is, will you respect my sovereignty as a free human being? Because if you're willing to do that, then I'm willing to reciprocate that to you and everyone else as far as that goes. And if that's the area that we're going to get behind, if that's the ideas that we're going to get behind, then Canada is definitely strategically placed in a position that will generate that kind of flourishment of freedom that will propagate us going forward in the 21st century in a more conducive manner. And rather than looking at each other as adversaries or opponents, we can look at each other as fellow defenders of liberty. And I'd rather function under a banner of unity than under any pretense of placing each other into political or ideological boxes and perceiving each other as adversaries or opponents. I like the idea of unity, even in the absence of full consistency as far as whether we agree with each other on everything. We definitely don't. But once again, what you do in your private or personal lives, that's not up to me to decide. It's the only thing that matters most to me is when we're out there actively engaging and interacting, like I said, in the social economic sphere. That's the area. Those are the times where standing for individual rights, freedoms, and liberty matters most. I'm voting PPC regardless what the polls say. Exactly. Yeah, polls. These polls. What was that? Let me just do it real quick here because I forget what I said. But yeah, because they had that Eric Grenier and the CBC, and they were talking about the PPC. Let me go to my profile on Twitter because I think that's probably be the easiest way to find it. But yeah, so there was this CBC News under the National, July 29th. Why is Maxime Bernier's People Party of Canada polling so low, and are they a threat in the upcoming election? So once again, this is CBC, the National. But as I responded, informed Canadians know it is relatively simple to get desired results from polls based on the wording of a specific question. Canadians also know that pollsters can't seem to get that right these days. So once again, these pollsters, they try to create these scenarios and these suggestions of the information contained within their polls, which are leading questions, right? They do that in the legal or the court processes, whether it's the Crown prosecutor or some of the lawyers, is they're leading questions, right? They're meant to trick you and place you in a particular corner or back you into a corner. Whereas, which is why I actually don't trust polls and why they're seeming to be shown out of touch with the reality these days. A lot of the time, these pollsters have been proven to be completely out of touch. And why? Because once again, they're using the improper wording and sampling, because that's the other thing, the kind of people they're sampling too. That's not a representation. You could even find 1,000 people that are willing to take polls. Doesn't mean that they're a representation or a proper sampling of 36 or 37 million Canadians. That's just not a reality, folks. But I mean, let me just actually give you a little example, because I had a couple of them linked here, I believe. Or no, sorry, that was on my laptop. But there was a couple examples of, if you look through some of the polling samples they were using, the wording and the questioning that they're using is totally misleading and totally not just misleading, but leading. So the way the question you're asked is to lead you where that you only have a particular way or a measurable amount or measure in how you'll be able to respond or answer that question. They're not even that. They're not leaving the question open to interpretation to the point where you can say what you've got to say based on your own personal preference. They're setting it up so that you'll only be able to answer it based on how they've worded it. So either you agree with them, like firmly disagree, strongly disagree. So at the end of the day, once again, they're leading questions that aren't representation of your original thoughts. They're only only representation as far as how much you align with the particular wording of that question. And most people, even if you don't agree with it, if it seems like it's something that's aligned, something that you might agree with as far as the base premise, you might say, okay, I'll go along with it, even though if you had nuance, you'd say, oh, I don't agree with this, and you would be able to push back against it. But because the question is worded to a point where you either agree with it or you don't, well, a lot of people will say, well, I guess given that option, that binary option, I'll just choose A or B. When in reality, there is no clear and concise answer as far as A or B. There's a C with a lot of extra caveat and a lot of nuance involved. See another 5% tax. Thanks for okay. We had a what's this? Yeah, Steve, don't look for clearly defined hate speech definitions because you won't ever find them. No such thing. Hate speech laws are a farce. Human rights tribunals all need to be banned. Nothing but kangaroo courts. Agree. Gordon Stewart III, there's no such thing as hate speech, just a difference of opinion. So true. Edgar Forrester, right, Bennett? On the money. Who decides what hate speech is? Who? It's all bureaucratic garbage. Agreed. Gato, Bennett, the problem with defining hate speech as advocating for violence is that the left in academia is already changing the definition of violence. Well, that's true. Yeah, because now they're suggesting that it's not just in the physical realm, but in reality, under historical precedent, under English or British common law, which is what most of our Western values are based and entrenched upon, is yes, there had to be a victim for something to be considered a crime. But yes, now they're completely redefining that meaning to suggest that language now can be considered actual violence, which is obviously a wrong position and an authoritarian position to take, which once again is a means to suppress or deny people their ability to speak openly and vocally against authoritarian collectivists. Yeah, everything else calls for anything that calls for violence or death threats, there's already laws for it, right? You can't use death threats. You can't openly advocate for using preemptive violence towards people. That's an entrenched and established norm under the British or English common law, and that's just a reality. And most people wouldn't push back against it, nor would I. You're absolutely right, Bennett. Once again, thanks, Steve. We are, Bennett. That is why he has support. Right on. I need to take a stupid pee. I hear you, Kat. I do too, actually, but I can't because I'm the host. If I had someone else here in the chat, I'd be able to offload that for a few minutes while I did, but can't do that right now. It's okay though. I need to take that's so funny, Kat. Have a really great day, everyone. We have a lot to be thankful for. So don't forget. Yeah, thanks, Kat. And you have yourself, like I say, you've been a great friend and an advocate and a fellow or staunch supporter of freedom. And mad respect to you. And you have yourself an excellent Canada Day and enjoy yourself. Have a great pee while you're at it. Oh, yeah, lest we forget the Toronto mayoral election. It's too bad even. I think about Toronto mayors and I think Rob Ford. What a great man he was. I'm not saying perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I had a lot of respect for Rob Ford, to be honest with you. It's really too bad and so sad that the man has passed. Because his brother, he's decent, but he's still Doug's no Rob, unfortunately. Doug's all right, but yeah, he's no Rob. Rob was definitely a man of the people, and I had a lot of respect for that man. I've already convinced my friend to change from NDP to BBC. She was completely ignorant of politics, and she said because she is a worker, she thought that was the party to vote for. Hey, yeah, actually, that's a great way to go about things because because, yeah, just because you're a worker, no, you don't have to support a socialist party just because you're a worker. Dang, that's the problem with these stupid binary positions that we're placed into, right? Through these central planners. Like, you have to pick one or the other. They don't give you any third options or your ability to think critically or outside the box, right? It's like, no, you pick one of the binary. Either you're a left or the right, either you're a collectivist or a capitalist, or right? It's always just binary. There's no room for nuance or discussion or dialogue. That's the problem. It really shuts down conversation before it's even began when you're functioning under such binary situations or scenarios. That's the thing I hate about it. No, let's talk about these things, right? That's why I do what I do, and I keep advocating every day, or at least on a regular basis. Is if you disagree with me, or if you're one of those authoritarian collectivists, hey, step up the blade. At least I've shown enough evidence in history in the past that I'm not going to be a dick to you. I'll give you all the time you need to say what you got to say, but at least be willing to engage or interact with me in terms of dialogue or debate, because if you're unwilling to do so, that tells me that you're just an authoritarian that wants to impose your ideas, your wills, your mandates, or your edicts upon me without even engaging in some verbal disagreements beforehand. That tells me that you're functioning from a place of full or top-down authoritarianism, which tells me that you have no respect for anyone other than what you deem is right or wrong. And I'll say I can push back against that, but the only way that can happen is if we sit down and talk about it. But if you're unwilling to talk about it, it suggests to me that you only want people to hear your side of the story and no one else's. And if you're scared to have the people that follow what you have to say, if you're scared to let them hear other people's perspective or other people's stories, then shouldn't you at least acknowledge and recognize that you're probably not functioning from a foundation that's solidly built or based or grounded? And you know that's the case. Me, I'm willing to allow anyone to challenge me openly, honestly, and publicly. And why that is? Because I'm firmly convicted in my beliefs and what I think I stand for, which is the promotion of individual rights, freedom, and liberty. I don't know how anyone could push back against that, but I'm always willing and open to allow anyone to try or attempt to do so. Like I say, because I believe that I'm on firm moral and ethical grounds, which is why I'm not fearful of anyone challenging what they got to say. Leftists, authoritarians, they can't say that. Yeah, damn right. Be rational. Sheer will not make positive functional change. Vote PPC or abstain from voting. I would agree. Yeah, either vote PPC or just don't vote at all. And many times in my life, I just chose never to vote. And why? Because no one stood firmly on the principles or the convictions that I hold dear and near. So why would I want to support people? I don't want to vote for lesser of evils. No, if I'm going to go out and choose to vote or create any sense of legitimacy as far as having a central plan authority, even though I'm not an advocate or fan of that, but I'm going to do so because I recognize that most Canadians are going to do that. I'm going to do it because someone stepped up the plate and shown that they're pushing back against that kind of authoritarian collectivism and give me a better model, a better opportunity, a better position, a better stance to take. And the People's Party of Canada, under the leadership of Maxime Bernier, has shown to me that there is someone in this country who used to be a representation of the establishment of this country, who used to be a member of the establishment party of this country. But he said, you know what, I'm more than willing to go out and show that I'm willing to, rather than just get a paycheck, because Maxime had his, his future was already taken care of, right? He had the pension, he had the public sector funding. He was part and parcel of a ruling establishment in this country. The fact that he chose to go out on his own and put that in perilous danger or a detriment showed me that he was willing to show that his principles and his conviction, he placed a higher authority and a superior aspect of that than just his paycheck, which tells me this is a person that's working from a proper philosophical position or principle that I can get behind, which is why, like I say, I'm definitely a staunch advocate of the PPC and Maxime Bernier, because, and especially now with the banner of freedom of speech and making that part and parcel of the policy position, I couldn't be more prouder and happier than I am today as a founding member and supporter of the PPC. Norman Kuhn, I currently live in Nova Scotia, but I also lived in Newfoundland, Ontario, and Alberta. My grandmother was Native. I am Canadian. That's awesome, Norman. Well, that's, as a Canadian, like I say, you have lots of different areas and aspects of your background. But at the end of the day, it's the fact that you're Canadian and the fact that you're willing to stand for those Canadian values, which I believe are conducive to what I stand for as well, which is what matters most. Who cares what, like I say, don't care about the color of the skin or your background or your religious history or any of that, as long as you're willing to stand in staunch defense of those Canadian values and liberties that I hold dear, then, like I say, that's what matters most. That's what creates unity in this country. And I really want Canada to come together under that kind of banner of unity, rather than, like I say, divide us up into these little political boxes or ideological perspectives and create an area of adversary where we don't even respect or adopt anything that has to do with each other's practices. And we can walk by each other without even acknowledging that each other exists. I mean, that's okay, like I say, in some areas, some regard, but to have genuine unity, we have to have something as the emphasis, as the basis for what it means to be Canadian. And that basis and that emphasis should always rest and reside on a respect of individual rights, freedoms, and liberties. That is the thing that brings us together. Even though to some people that sounds contradictory. Well, individualism, well, how could that have anything to do with being part and parcel of a giant collective? Well, no, actually, it works perfectly, because the only way you can have a collective that respects each individual comprised or who comprises that collective is by willing to advocate and defend who they are and their sovereignty. A proper collective, as long as it's not done through a top-down authoritarianism, a proper collective or any collective endeavor, the only way you can make that flourish or function properly is by respecting all the individual actors or individuals in particular that contain or comprise that collective. Emphasizing the importance of the individual is what strengthens the bond of the collective. It's the weak links that you got to worry about. Anyways, folks, I see we're probably getting down to the point where everyone's probably had lots to say. And like I say, I very much appreciate everyone joining in the chat today. I've had a lot of fun. I actually hopefully try to keep it relatively loose and not so serious today, although I tend to get serious at times. But I definitely want to at least take some time out of the day today to show my appreciation and respect to those of you who are, once again, advocates and fellow defenders of those rights, freedoms, and liberties that I stand for every day of my life. I'm so proud and happy to see that a lot of you are out there doing the exact same thing and are even willing to give me a little bit of time out of your day to show some solidarity, which creates an area where I'm more emboldened to keep doing what I'm doing, because I really do need those you out there to help me in some way so that I know that I'm on the right track and doing the right thing. It's very important to know that there are Canadians that are willing to support me and help advocate for the things that I advocate for. And that gives me that sense of family, that sense of connectedness that I really need. It helps embolden me and keep me pushing forward and doing what I'm doing. So everyone out there, like I say, spend the rest of your day today with family and friends. Grab a chuggy or two, grab a beer, grab a bottle of wine. Maybe smoke a doob. Hey, it is legalized, kinda, quasi, right? But yeah, well, smoke a doob, do your thing. Maybe have a beer, or hey, maybe if you don't have any vice of any sort, maybe you're one of those people that don't need a vice and you can get through life without any of them. And kudos for you that can do so. A lot of respect to you. But get out there and enjoy your day with friends and family and those who matter most. And like I say, on the other side of that equation, on the other side of this day, and we'll be back doing our same old, and doing what we have to do to defend the rights, freedoms, and liberties. But at the end of the day, it's your personal happiness. It's your personal meaning and what you can bring to the table as far as your family structure or your community at large. What you can bring to the table to help invigorate some good, honest thought and the promotion of liberty. Do your best and then don't even worry about what everything else, how that unfolds, because things that are outside of your grasp or outside of your control, you're not going to be able to change that. You're only going to be able to be a spectator. But at the very least, if you've done the right thing to make sure that kind of rights, freedom, and liberty is not just conducive for you, but it's conducive for all the people that you associate or align with, well, that's your best way to create a culture that's much more healthy. And like I say, it becomes very much addictive. For me, liberty and the staunch promotion of such is almost like a sugar high. I don't think I'd ever want to get to the point where I'm no longer doing so. I think I would feel that I'm a failure as a human being if I'm not a staunch advocate or defender of individual rights, freedoms, and liberty. And what matters most to me is that we keep promoting it, even when we're inundated with those authoritarian collectivists who are trying to send the message that we're bad for doing so. Now, you keep doing your thing, and at the end of the day, you'll see. You watch how this plays out. You'll see that you will win because you got the best ideas. The other people, yeah, they got a lot of things that we don't have, but the one thing they don't have is the proper ideas. And ideas are very important and very powerful. So everyone have a great day. Have a great Canada Day weekend or what's left of it, and we'll talk to you again. We'll see you in the next stream. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.